Hey guys, it's Alan here from the gym. As you may have noticed, I totally skipped out on my video for last week, and why that happened is kind of exactly what I want to talk about in this week's video. But specifically what I want to draw back to is how to make a mental recovery when you need to have a small or maybe a big breakdown. First of all, as with all of any kind of content that I do that's mental health related, I want to disclose and disclaim that this is by no means medical advice, and it is just something and a strategy that kind of helps me through those moments. So I cannot make any claims behind it other than the fact that it's something that I've personally found very useful. And as always, if you feel like you are in a place where you need help, please don't be afraid or feel bad to reach out to the resources out there that are available and to get professional help in that manner. I did it and it helped me so much. So that being said, last week when I went to make my video, I'm supposed to have these done a couple days before Monday, but that never actually ends up happening. And so on Monday I was brainstorming, I was trying to find like an idea of what I could do, what I could tell you guys about, and I just couldn't. Like, my brain just wasn't turning on. I couldn't come up with anything. And then somehow, as kind of sneaky thoughts like that tend to do, my brain just kind of started rolling into this cycle of, well, like, none of your ideas are good enough and you're not good enough to do this, and you know, nobody's gonna watch this video. And it made me question like my content in general and what I'm doing, and somehow went down that rabbit hole of like, is this even what I'm supposed to be doing and what I want to be creating? Now, most of the time I don't actually feel that way, but it's really easy for those thoughts to kind of take you into that spot. And it was probably like a good hour or two that I tried to brainstorm this video, and I wasn't getting anywhere. I was just talking myself mentally into a deeper hole, and I was getting nothing accomplished, and it was a bad situation. And so finally I was just like, whatever. And I started thinking about how I could kind of get through that. And this is something that I've been focusing on probably for the past couple months. And I'm not sure exactly like where I heard this, where this was first like introduced into my head, this kind of concept that I've kind of ran with on my own from there. It was probably like in a yoga class or maybe somebody online, I don't know. But the idea of letting yourself fail, letting yourself fall, and focusing on the recovery rather than picking yourself up right now. Because I think a lot of times when we're barely holding on in whatever circumstance it is, when it's a situation that's just like really eating us inside and we're just pushing and pushing and pushing to like barely hold on to it, it's exhausting, and we prolong that period of time by thinking that we're going to be able to get through it, by thinking that we're going to be able to lift ourselves back up from it. And I know that a lot of people can do that, so I'm not saying that it can't be done, but it's something that never worked for me. When there's a lot out there about strategies like using gratitude to kind of turn your mindset around, and all these different pathways that you can kind of try to switch your thoughts over into that are said to or supposed to help you get to a better place in your mindset. And so they might work for some people, but for me it always felt like there was something missing. It always felt like, well, I can't just do that yet. Like, I can't take this moment where I'm feeling doubtful and where I'm really like knocking at my self-confidence, and where I'm really tearing myself down, and I have a really hard time just like turning that around into something like gratitude. It was never, that's just an example of one of those things. It just wasn't something that worked for me. It always felt like there was a step in the middle. It always felt like I needed to like take a half step before I could completely turn it around, and I never knew what that was. And so recently what I've been focusing on and telling myself is, it's okay, just let yourself have a breakdown. Let it go. Just not let it go as in like don't worry about it, but just whatever emotions you're feeling, whatever it is that needs to be let out, like just let it happen. And that's not new. That's not a new thing, and it's something that I strongly think that people should do a lot of times, is to just not try to hold all of that back, because more often than not it just ends up coming out eventually anyways in a bunch of emotional kind of vomit, if you will. And so that's not new. But what I found for myself is that when I do let myself kind of let everything go, I get myself to like a neutral state, but sometimes I can't always turn that background into something else. Sometimes that's the exact thing that you need to do. And if you don't have any other like life commitments that day or anything else that you need to get done, then sometimes that's the right route. But sometimes the show still has to go on and I still have things to do. And just by letting all of that out, sometimes it doesn't bring me back up enough to be able to still be productive or some, glimpse of motivated or anything like that. So this has really kind of helped me conquer that. One is just letting it go. Telling myself that I'm going to focus on the recovery. I'm not going to focus on the failure. I'm not going to focus on the breakdown. I'm going to focus on how efficient I can make my rebound. I'm not going to put my focus into not falling apart. I'm going to put my focus and my effort, I'm going to save that effort and put it into recovering and challenge myself to recover a little bit faster, a little bit more efficiently every time I have a similar type breakdown, which has really kind of taken the pressure off to immediately turn my mindset around in that moment. And I have to be careful that I don't prolong this process for a really long time, because sometimes I really do have things I need to get done in a short amount of time. So that's what I want to share with you today, is how I do that for me personally. So the first thing that I do is I give myself, in proportion to the intensity of the breakdown and what it's about, I give myself an amount of time that I'm going to let myself just feel all those feels. That I'm going to let myself cry it out, or just tune out on Instagram and mindlessly scroll through my feed, or maybe it's like 45 minutes or whatever it is. So sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm just going to feel everything I need to feel for 5 minutes, and then I try to go from there. Sometimes 5 minutes isn't enough, and sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's whatever it is. I try to just let myself like feel those feelings or completely tune out. Whatever method I think is going to better fit that circumstance. And then I do something productive, but completely unrelated. So if I'm struggling to get myself in the mental place where I can write or create content, then I fold clothes. Or I do something that is still getting something done, but it's not in any way connected to the thing that I am trying to get done, that I was trying to get done in the middle of the meltdown. So, cleaning, like house stuff is really good. Sometimes, like if I need to make a phone call, like if I have to call a doctor to refill prescriptions or like things like that, like I'll take care of all of those other adulting things that I normally like let fall to the side when I'm so focused on my brand and my business. Something that I'm going to still feel like, okay, I got that off my to-do list, but something that's not in the picture to the thing that I'm stressing about. And so I give myself 15 minutes to work on house stuff, or I give myself a half hour to organize something, or things like that. And then 9 times out of 10, once I give myself those 2 periods of time, 1, to kind of go through the meltdown and let it happen, and 2, to switch my mindset to being productive, but doing something productive but unrelated, more often than not, once I've made it through those 2 steps, I can start to reintroduce myself to whatever it is I was trying to do, to whatever situation I was trying to solve, or whatever problem was on the table, or whatever task that was giving me a lot of resistance. And I've been able to kind of apply this in really small ways, like day-to-day tasks, but also in like big goals, like my New Year's resolutions, like being on time, something that I wanted to work on, and I did really great for a couple weeks, and then a couple weeks after that I did not so great. And by telling myself that, like, Alan, you're going to fail. There's going to be a period where you're going to be on time, where you're not going to be on time. And that's going to happen, and it's going to be okay. Don't stress about it. By not stressing about failing, then after that I was like, okay, how are we going to get back there? How are we going to be back on time? How are we going to recreate that motivation to change that habit? And by shifting those thoughts into the recovery, into getting back up, rather than letting all of my energy out, by trying to save myself when a breakdown was inevitable anyways, or when a failure was inevitable, it's really helped me conserve a lot of my mental energy and capacity lately. So that's why I was MIA last week. And so just to bring this full circle, last week I folded a bunch of clothes and I did some laundry, and by the time that I made it through those 2 steps, I was definitely in a place where I could have made a video, but instead I chose to work on other stuff because I figured there's only like a couple people that watch these videos, and all of my regulars are people who can relate to the mental struggle, and I wanted to be able to make this video for this week. So that's it. Let me know if this was helpful. It's really small, and I think it's a little bit easier than trying to put the pressure on completely turning around your mindset instantly and trying to go from something that's really challenging you to being positive all in one breath. It's really challenging, and it's not only is it challenging, but it's exhausting to go from a really low place to a really high place all at once. And so I think that for me at least, this strategy has helped me get there more gradually, rather than trying to feel like I have to dump all of my energy into lifting me back up right this second. And it's been really, really helpful in a lot of ways, and I hope that it has been helpful for you too, and I challenge you to try it, and let me know how it goes. Alright, that's all I got for this week, and I'll be back next Monday, hopefully.